Silvio is the only character to never break, to never stray from the, like the omerta principles, right? So like Paulie had weird stuff with Johnny Sack going on. Ralphie was constantly trying to change sides. Even Tony had a lot of crying and a lot of emotion with the animals. And
listen, Tony had his thing with Agent Harris.
Right, Agent Harris. He almost whacked out his sister-in-law, Christopher's wife. Like literally every male character who was part of Tony's crew or one of the mafia crews had a lot of break in their main personality. They had a lot of shady stuff. They had a lot of wavering sides. Silvio was the only man who stayed rock solid from start to finish. Now, I understand that role wasn't originally in existence, right? And David had to create something for him. The character that they carved out over time, Silvio never cried. He never ratted. He never spoke to another side. He never went against Tony's decisions, no matter how much he liked them. And sometimes he disagreed with them, like when the tile and the fiber optic cable with Patsy and all towards the end.
Yeah.
Silvio never did anything but be a phenomenal number two and stand by his guys. And even like with his wife, and there was never any nonsense. He had Gumans, but there was never any drama. He was the most no nonsense guy on the show. And I don't think he gets enough credit for being a perfect example of what all those guys took an oath for and what they were actually supposed to be.
No, he certainly was the most stand-up guy. I mean, if you think about it, right, even when he was number one for a little bit, right, he never, ever, ever thought about screwing Tony over, screwing Carmela over. It was never a thought. But who was there trying to screw Carmela over, right? Paulie and Vito. They didn't want to give her the $100,000.
Yeah. Yeah, and it affected him emotionally to be number one. Like he was having breathing trouble and stuff like that. But you're right. As far as like he never abused that power, even though it was very, very brief.
Now, what was the whole thing where with the wire, right, with the fiber optic cable? Where remember he's like, now listen, if you're trying to test me,
yeah.
What was going on there? What was Silvio trying to accomplish there?
I just think he was it was a little bit of asserting his own authority, right? Because as number two, people always looked to Tony for that final decision. People always looked to Tony for that ruling. And I think there was a little bit of his pride got hurt to the point of like, I can make decisions. I should be the one people listen to sometimes. Technically, everybody besides Tony is under me. And God forbid you fucking listen to me. I think it was a little bit of that, but I also think it was a little bit of like he wanted Patsy as a friend, especially with the trajectory of Patsy becoming Tony's in-law. And it was just this idea of like everybody knew Christopher was going off on the deep end, and especially with the father-in-law and stuff like that there was too much going on there. And I think like it was a little bit respect my authority and not always Tony's, and it was a little bit of I need to make an ally in Patsy as things progress with him and Tony. And I need to get my guys back, even if it means creating a rift between Tony and I need to let Patsy know that I have his back. And that's where just like the whole do it once, do it twice, timelines got fucked up, and he never let it happen a third time. And I think like that was like his get out of jail free card with Tony. Like he only get one of them, you know what I mean? And like, that's what I mean. Like, Silvio never had any nonsense. So for that to happen twice, it was something Tony would let slip because that's not really who he is.
Now, I'm going to actually counter something here. I've been thinking about this while you were discussing everything.
Go ahead.
Wouldn't you say Christopher lived Omerta until the day he died? Almost to a fault.
Yes, minus the drugs, 100%. But minus
Tony was doing a little fada yada yeech all of a sudden, and I remember when that happened. I was like, when did this start?
But it wasn't running his life and affecting his business the way Christopher was. That's number one. Number two, with the exception of putting true events, although no names were mentioned, with the exception of putting true events in his movie scripts and the drug problem, 100%, Christopher was at the top of that list. But the drug problem and the desire to be in the movie industry clashed so much with his day job. You just couldn't have that. You couldn't have the two. I told you, I'm a Christopher fan. On the last episode, I admitted that I cried when Tony killed him, but it was the drugs and no matter how much you covered it up, the drugs and the putting stories in movie scripts was two giant no-nos for the mob.
Well, yep. You know what? I forgot all about that. I forgot all about the fact that Tony was basically the basis for Cleaver.
Yeah.
And I completely forgot all about that. So you're basically, you broke out Omerta right there when you put all that stuff in the script.